Hey everyone, I'm Debbie Henry, and this is your Hartwell Hustle. Thank you for joining us today. This is the place where you can come and you can learn everything that makes Hartwell tick, everything that makes us vibrant and interesting, and why we live here. So today you are in for a treat. We have John Cumming. Cumming? Is it Cumming? Cummings?
Yep.
And he is a photographer, and he's done some work for me. He's excellent. And I'm not going to give you all of his information because I want him to talk with you about that. But I will tell you, one of the things that I love about interviewing him is he is a creative mind. You know, I'm not that creative. So I love talking to people who are creative and learning how they come up with ideas and how they execute them and what motivates them. And so I think you'll learn a lot today from John. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
Tell us about you. Who are you? Who is John Cumming?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, rural area in Pennsylvania, kind of a little bit like Hartwell.
Okay.
Let's see, went to college in Pennsylvania, got an internship with EDS, Ross Perot's company. Got transferred to Michigan, where I lived for 20 some years. And then 3 years ago, or actually probably 30 years in Michigan. 3 years ago, we moved here to Hartwell. And we've been coming here probably 7 years prior to that to visit friends.
Okay.
So we were familiar with it.
Okay. That seems to be what happens a lot these days is people have been visiting and now it's time for them to move here permanently.
Yeah.
So we're glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here.
We love it here.
Good.
Yes, we
Good.
love it.
So what is your thing? Tell everyone what you do.
I am a commercial photographer. So I do advertising, brochures, annual reports, anything advertising, product, food, architecture. I do shooting for architects and interior designers also.
Okay. And what's the name of your company?
Barking Dog Studios.
Ooh, how'd you get that?
Well, when I first moved to Michigan, I was working at EDS, so I was in a corporate environment this whole time as a photographer and creative director. When I left on my own, no one outside of EDS knew who I was, so I wanted something unique. And all these independent photographers were, Jim Blow photographer, photography, and I needed something different. So it was me and my dogs at my house, and so it was Barking Dog Studios.
Okay. So how long have you been doing this?
Since college, on my own, since 1982.
Okay. And what was the thing that said, I'm going to pick up a camera and start taking pictures?
I actually started with the Brady Bunch.
Oh. And I know who the Brady Bunch is.
I was in high school, probably junior, middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Watched an episode of the Brady Bunch where Greg Brady broke his leg and couldn't play football. So he took pictures on the sideline, and he had a little dark room, and he blew them up. And I thought, that's pretty cool. So my dad and I built a dark room, and I've always just wanted to be a photographer.
Isn't that interesting? Dark rooms. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute or a little bit later in the show, how things have progressed or changed from dark rooms to what we use now.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know just a little bit. What's your favorite subject to shoot?
The reason I really got into photography is because I love lighting.
Okay. And that's a hard thing.
It is. You can get as hard as you want. You can make it simple, or you can really add dimension and textures to what you're shooting. But I love what you can do, how lighting and shadows can change how you see something or make something plain look amazing. I've always loved lighting. And so my favorite subject is anything that I get to be creative lighting.
That's just amazing to me because, that's a tough thing. That's not, that's I guess, intuitive. It's intuitive and it's something you build on, I would think.
Yeah, the things that always come out, the things I'm most proud of are usually the ones that I have a vision, I can see it before we ever get started.
Okay. And I know this is a stupid question, but you use cameras, right?
Yeah.
Do you do video?
I do. Mostly in video, in my career has been director of photography or doing lighting for film and video.
Oh, okay.
But I have several clients still in Michigan where I'm the director of photography when they do video projects.
Okay, okay. So do you have a favorite photo that you've taken?
No, because my favorite photo is probably what I want to do next.
Okay.
That's what it always is. And I'm always just trying to, especially for my own vision and my own creativity, I just kind of keep trying to push things.
Okay.
And I have favorite photos, but I don't have a favorite photo.
Okay, okay. And so would you say that the Brady Bunch inspired you, or do you have some more inspiration?
Most of my inspiration now, the Brady Bunch wanted me to have a dark room and wanted me to start taking pictures.
Right.
But what inspired me was the lighting and learning how to do that. I think I'm more inspired by Impressionist painters.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and music.
And music.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really what, especially in my personal stuff and my personal vision it's based on like, there's some Impressionist paintings that I can't stop looking at.
Okay.
And then the music with the metaphors and the poetry that's in there, that's very inspiring. And so a lot of my personal work, there's poems that go along with it.
I know that when there was an exhibit at the Art Center, and you had some art there, there was like a poem that was
poems.
A poem that went with it.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So we talked about lighting. Okay, I'm going to take you back when you first started. What would have been in your camera bag at that point when you started?
When I first started, my father was a PR guy for Caterpillar tractor in the city that we lived in.
Okay.
And so he had a bunch of cameras. And so when I first started, I was using his twin lens reflex camera, which, it's roll film, 120 roll film, and there's like 12 pictures on a roll.
And for those that don't know what film is, that you're not old enough to know what film is, when he was talking about the darkroom a while ago, that's what he meant. He had to take that and have it developed there. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would process my film and go down and make prints, and I'd make 8x10s of the dumbest things you could think of, but I was like, this is so cool.
Okay, is there anything else that would have been in there, or that would have been the main thing?
Well, that was it then.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that was it.
And so fast forward, what's in your film bag now, or your camera bag now?
I have a medium format Mamiya camera with a phase 1 digital back that I love.
Which means nothing to me.
Yeah,
that's okay.
It costs more than my car. The back itself, it's a little box this big. It takes great photos.
Okay.
It's amazing.
And I'm sure you have to have all that insured.
Yeah.
Because it's your business.
Yeah. Yep. And then I also have a Nikon 35, SLR camera.
Okay.
It's all both digital.
Okay.
And those are the cameras that I carry.
Okay.
With a variety of lenses, and then a lot of strobes and different lighting equipment.
Do you cringe when someone says, "Oh, I can't hire you," or "I don't need to hire you because I have an iPhone"?
That happens so much.
I might have done that. I don't know.
No, there's been at least over the years, I've noticed companies, we have a guy that takes our pictures. And, I've had to reshoot some things for people that did that. And then other people, they don't care, and that's good enough, and that's all they need. And I understand that, some people don't budget for that kind of stuff.
Right.
So.
And I get that too, absolutely. But I do know that sometimes in a digital world that we live in now, that's the algorithms and everything pick up on how clear a photo is, or what's in the photo, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your creativity. What, you said music inspires you when you get in a rut. Because I do know, as a creative, I'm not a creative, but if I'm decorating, whatever, I might not decorate for months. And then all of a sudden I want to decorate again. What inspires you to do that?
A lot of where I get that kind of creative release, I guess, would be writing.
Okay.
And like I have a lot, like obviously everyone has lots of thoughts and lots of theories and philosophies on things. And so I will take, if I need to get something moving, I will take a thought and I'll break it down to its most simple form.
Okay.
And then I try to visualize that.
Okay.
So,
do you remember your first paid gig?
Well, the first paid gig was like sophomore year of high school, and I did some photography of it was a bowler rolled 300.
It was a what?
A bowler. He got
bowling, a bowling ball.
He had a 300, and I went to the bowling alley and I took his picture. That was the first time you got paid for that? I got like $10.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, what has been the most challenging photo that you've ever taken?
Well, there's challenging in the scope, like big, panoramic, where there's lights and people everywhere. That's one thing. And then there's challenging where things, it's difficult because things aren't working out.
Okay.
But let's see, probably some of the most challenging stuff was shooting in casinos. Because you have a lot of times there's a lot of people and they're all paid to be there, so you don't want to waste their time. Okay. And you've got a full day or 3 days of shooting, so everything's got to be on a fairly tight schedule.
So what do you mean they're paid to be there? It's like
they're actors.
Oh, like it's for a product or an advertisement for?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I bet that was interesting.
Yeah, and there's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot that has gone wrong, but that's the one thing with photography, and I'm sure with a lot of other businesses too, but something almost always goes wrong. And the good photographers solve the problem and keep going.
Okay.
And still get everything they need and something that the client likes.
Well, that's interesting because that was going to be one of my next questions is, what do you do when something goes wrong? But it sounds like you're experienced at, picking up and dealing with it.
That's one of the fun parts about commercial photography is solving problems.
Okay.
Because sometimes they're stupid little problems and you figure out, okay, this is what we'll do instead. And other times it's like catastrophic and it's like, oh, we can't, this is where we wanted to shoot and now we can't shoot here. And then you got to figure out, you have to find another way around it, which is kind of the same process of thinking about what you're trying to say and how else can I say it.
So it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like to me, being a photographer is all encompassing of storytelling.
Yeah.
Because you talk about music, you talk about writing, taking the shot and making it all come out in that photo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Do you enjoy shooting people?
Yes, I
Not
do.
shooting people, you know what I mean. Do you enjoy taking photos of people?
Yeah. It used to be back in Detroit in Michigan, the people I would do executive portraits, like environmental portraits.
Okay.
And that's what I enjoy the most, environmental portraits, as far as shooting people, portraits.
Okay.
The bring in your background and, that I do it. It's not my favorite. I'd rather do it in an environment, and because it tells a story. It shows. When you're doing a portrait, you're not just trying to say, there you go, here's your picture, put it on your badge or whatever.
Right.
You want to talk about. You want the people to look at that and get a glimpse of what that person is.
Okay.
And who they are.
Okay.
And that's what I'd rather shoot in an environment.
Okay. So let's talk about your business. I mean, obviously this guy is talented, but let's talk about your business. Your business here in Hartwell is Barking
Dog Studios.
Dogs or Dog?
Barking Dog Studios.
Barking Dog Studio. And at the end of the show, we're going to put his contact information up for you so you'll have that. And let's talk about, so you've actually had, when you moved here, did you go ahead and open your business or?
Well, I still have my clients back in Detroit and, and all around Michigan, around the Midwest, really, and some in Canada that I still go back and shoot for.
Okay.
Or sometimes they send me stuff and I'll shoot it here.
Okay.
But when we built the house, I designed the house and I added a section on my garage that is a studio. So I can shoot there.
Nice. Okay. Okay. And actually, I've said that, but now I'm going to wait on that for just a minute. Let's talk about your business, but I know that you're real involved with the high school. Yeah. Your wife's a teacher and you help out over there. The middle school, thank you. If you have someone who is wanting to start a photography business, what would you say to them? If you have a student come to you and say, I want to be a photographer, what would you say to them?
Well, it depends on what they want to do. If you want to be a wedding portrait person or news, that kind of thing, is you just need to shoot and keep shooting and learn and study what you're shooting and learn what went right and what went wrong.
Okay.
For what I do, I actually went to a photographer in the city I lived near when I grew up in Pennsylvania when I was in high school. And I said, I want to be a photographer. What's the best way to go about it? Mm-hmm. And he was, at that time, he was older, getting ready to retire. He was a portrait wedding guy. Mm-hmm. But he started out shooting for the Associated Press, and he was traveling all over the world. And he said, it's really hard to get started. If you don't think you have a unique vision, don't even bother. And I think he was trying to talk me out of it, and that inspired me to really want to do it.
Okay.
But that's what I would say is, for the advertising end, you need to create something that is you, that someone can see, I know who took that photo.
That's John's work. Yeah. So what would you say is the most challenging part about turning your photography business, or not business, your photography hobby into a business?
It's really meeting people. It's about meeting people, meeting the right people.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of to bring that home, building a business here in Hartwell. I mean, you've been here, 4 years, you said? 3 years. And you've done a great job. I mean, you're involved with the Art Council and you are doing photos for people around here. But it is, I know firsthand, it's challenging building a business, but, to make a hobby your full-time job, I mean, that can be challenging, I would think. What are you doing to market yourself in the area?
It's mostly meeting people.
Okay.
I still, like I said, my biggest clients are still back in the Midwest.
Okay.
I would love to have some big clients here, but it's hard to meet people, and I am not a good marketer. That's why I have always had a sales rep who just retired, so now I don't have one. But I have all the confidence in the world in myself. Mm-hmm. But if I'm talking to someone and they don't sound interested, okay, I go away. I am not persistent. I second guess myself when it comes to that all the time.
And I think that's common. I think a lot of us do that. I think that's pretty common.
So mostly what I do here is I try to meet people, and I'm on the board for the Art Center, getting involved in the Chamber of Commerce and things like that. But most of the time I talk to people, say, oh, I've seen your website, I've heard about you, I love your work is amazing, but I can't afford you. And it's like, okay, well, you didn't ask me for a price yet.
Right, right.
And I know in where I am now, I can't charge what I charged in the big city.
Right.
right? So, and to tell you the truth, I'm still trying to figure out what I can charge here.
Mm-hmm.
But when people don't ask me for a quote, I can't overprice myself.
Right.
And find out that, oh, that was too high.
Right. People just need to pick up the phone or send you an email or, just connect with you.
Yeah.
Have coffee with you, and that's, something I would say if you're connecting with someone or you're wanting to know about someone in Hartwell, pick up the phone, have coffee with them. And, the worst that can happen is it not work out, but you've met a new friend. So, I know that you're open to that and you're
Absolutely.
available to that. Let's go back to lighting. Why is natural lighting more important than artificial lighting?
See, I like shooting both ways.
Oh, okay.
I like setting up my camera on a tripod and building a photo in front of my camera in the studio.
Okay.
I also like shooting outdoors or shooting people outdoors. My philosophy for shooting with natural lighting is I always have something else to embellish that, either whether it's a light or reflectors, but always trying to improve even on the natural light, especially when you're shooting people or plants or anything.
Right, right.
So.
I know that food photography has gotten to be huge around, everywhere.
Yeah.
Why is that? Do you have any idea?
Well, for a restaurant, if you have good photographs, it makes people eat your food.
Yeah.
There's a lot of restaurants that it looks like they shoot it themselves, and
I guess that's good advertisement too, because if I get a plate of food, and don't worry, I don't pull up my camera all the time, but if I get a nice plate of food presented to me, I might take a picture of it. And that's the best form of advertisement for them, as well. So I guess so. I just know pictures are taken of everything.
Yeah, all the restaurants should put their name on their plates for all the people taking pictures of their food.
There's your good marketing. Who said, yes, you can market. So let's talk about a couple of your photos. Let's talk about the clown photo. Tell us about this photo.
Okay, so in my website, I have a little section that is dreams. And this was a dream that I had. And I was, before I had the dream, I was driving down the highway, going to a shoot, and this little car passes me, and the guy driving was a clown. And the whole car was full of balloons in the back.
Okay.
And so he was obviously going to work as a clown somewhere, I hope. And that night, I was just thinking about it, and I had this dream that I followed this guy to his house. And, it was a hard day of work as a clown, and he fell asleep watching TV. His clown shoes are there at the side of the chair.
Boy.
And then it was like, how dreams like shift.
Right.
So instead of just being this clown where he started wiping his makeup off, all of a sudden he was a real person. Like a clown is like a race of human, right? And so all of a sudden, his normal wife was in the back. She's doing a puzzle on the dining room table, and this older kid is just like has a cow mask on, is just like dancing, and so it's a kind of a typical family in a bizarre way.
Right.
But then this little girl who is part human and part clown, she's got these magical powers, and she's sitting there on the floor, and she's raising her, and she creates this glowing orb with a ring of clouds around it.
Wow.
And that's what happened in my dream. So I thought that's too cool of a visual to not shoot.
You dream big.
Yeah. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, to be able to take that from your dream and put it in a portrait is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of your most recent photographs, and that's the one of the two people, and I think we're going to be able to pull this one up for you as well. The two people standing out.
Yes, they're two painters in Anderson, and they're doing a show together at the Anderson Art Center. and they wanted to start advertising for the shows in August or something. They wanted to start advertising for it, and they saw some of my work, some of my dream work actually, and really liked my style, and they approached me about shooting some advertising for them. And they had their ideas, and they told me the show was titled American Gothic, but it was kind of like a Kafkaesque take on of the American Gothic painting. And so I came up with an idea of what if we have you two standing in front of a house, but the house is all run down, and just kind of our take on it. And I did a similar kind of a lighting, like the shadows on the nose fall the same way that they do on the painting, and I tried to give it touches that match the painting in a totally different dystopian kind of way. Right. And so they're standing there in front of the house. I found the house here in Hartwell, and then there was a really bad storm coming in probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I was driving, and I stopped and took photos with my phone of the sky because I knew someday I would use them for a background, and so I actually put that sky in the background for this shot. So here are these people standing in front of this broken down house, which they're living in. You can tell because there's a clothesline that I actually built in my driveway and shot that and stripped it in. But they're standing here in front of this house with this big storm coming in. Nice.
Going into this, what is something, or I guess kind of wrapping this up, what is something that you would want the Hartwell audience to know about you?
I love it here. I'm trying to get more and more involved in the community. I would like to let the skills that I have, I would love to help local businesses or shoot beautiful portraits of local people. I would love to. I just want to be a part of the community.
And y'all, I can tell you that is true. What I know of John is he loves Hartwell, and he does love shooting pictures around here. He has gotten so involved in everything. So, I would say give him a call and, like I said, sit and have coffee with him. I think, John, my experience has been, whether I've been working with a photographer, whether I've worked with, I don't know, a fashion person, I don't know. But I think it helps to connect with them first, just to kind of get a feel for somebody. I mean, I don't know. I can't just go in and sit there and smile with, for a photographer. It helps if there's a connection there. Yeah. And so I would say to you, if you are needing a photo, you know what? Here's some good ideas. Family reunions. What a great idea to have a photo of your family if you're having a family reunion, or seasonal business photos, or, as he said, headshots. John's a great photographer, so, were you going to say something?
Well, no, I actually did just do 30-some headshots for a company just outside of town.
Oh, okay.
And so I do that kind of thing, and we worked out a price that was workable between what I would charge in Detroit and what I charged down here, and we were both happy. So.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I've learned a little bit more about photography. I've learned also that there is tons that I don't know, and that's why it's important to leave it up to professionals. But if you need any photography work done, commercial or personal, give John a call. So I want to thank you for watching today, and invite your friends to join us, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Debbie Henry, and this is your Hartwell Hustle.